I didn't even make it to the living room before I knew I'd made a mistake. 12-foot garland wrapped in gold ribbon, a bar cart with crystal, caterers slicing prime rib in the dining room like it was a damn hotel. 14-foot tree right in the center of the entry, lit up like Macy's. And there was Brent, my baby brother, in a tux with a flute of champagne in one hand, and my ex, Lena, on the other arm like a goddamn accessory. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. My name's Calvin Rhodes. I'm 57. That morning, I got laid off from the branding firm I gave 9 years to, in San Mateo. No severance, no warning, just a box and a handshake. I drove my beat-up Accord 26 miles back to my parents' place in Woodside, thinking I could crash for a week, maybe get my legs under me. But when I walked through that front door, it was like I'd wandered into somebody else's life. My dad, Harold, was in the corner popping a bottle of 2004 Bordeaux, like it was a random Tuesday, not Christmas Eve. My mom, Diane, stood at the tree, adjusting some gold leaf ornament, pearls around her neck, like she was posing for a magazine. Nobody looked surprised to see me, just annoyed. Brent raised his eyebrows, smirked. Again, that hit harder than I thought it would. But it was Dad who finished the job. "You're 57, Calvin," he said, real calm. "Time to stand on your own." Then he dropped the real hammer. He'd moved the family trust. All of it, $42.5 million, irrevocable, into Brent's name only. Said it like he was doing me a favor. Mom didn't say a word, just kept fiddling with the tree. I didn't make a scene. Just went upstairs, grabbed my old duffel, stuffed in 2 shirts, some socks, my busted laptop. Brent followed me up and filmed the whole thing on his phone like it was comedy. Calvin's greatest hits, he joked. Dad opened the front door himself, set my bag outside. No yelling, no drama, just 2 alarm beeps as the system armed behind me. They shut the door before I even made it off the porch. It was cold. I walked for an hour and change until I hit the little park near the stone church. Sat down on the bench and tried to breathe. I was shaking so bad my teeth hurt. Then she came out of the fog, barefoot, white-blue skin, like someone from a dream. Maybe 80, maybe more. She looked lost. Asked if I knew any shelters with space. I had nothing, but I still had my coat. I took it off and wrapped it around her shoulders. 65 minutes later, 17 black sedans pulled up like I was in the middle of a movie set. Same woman stepped out in a camel coat. Makeup perfect. Diamonds like stars. She looked me in the eye and said, "I've seen enough to know who you are." Then she got back in the car. I just stood there, breath showing in the air like smoke, not knowing what the hell had just happened. But I wasn't cold anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay on the motel mattress staring at the water-stained ceiling while trucks hissed down the highway behind the curtains. Next afternoon, the landline rang. Actual landline. I picked it up on the 3rd ring. "Mr. Rhodes," a woman said, calm, sharp. "This is Rosa Patel. Mrs. Evelyn Carrington would like to meet you." At first I thought it was someone screwing with me. I almost laughed. Then she added, "We'll be outside in 4 minutes." 4 minutes later, a line of black sedans pulled into the lot. No lights, no fuss. Just quiet, deliberate motion. Room 107 looked like a joke next to them. I stepped out, wearing the same jeans from yesterday, and followed a man in a black coat to the back seat of the 3rd car. The drive was silent, trees getting taller the deeper we went into Atherton. We stopped behind a wall of redwoods and a hedge taller than a billboard. Gates slid open like it had a secret to keep. Inside, the place smelled like cedar and old paper, real money smell, like a rare book library built inside a mansion. She was waiting in the library. The woman from the bench, only now she was polished, posture straight, diamonds just barely catching the light. Her voice had that soft East Coast rhythm rich people master. But her eyes? They were kind. She didn't waste time. "Every Christmas Eve," she said, "for 27 years, I go out with nothing. I look for someone who acts decent when they think no one's watching." She turned to face me fully. "Some years I don't pick anyone. This year, I picked you. I didn't say anything, just kept my hands in my pockets. My husband built Carrington Retail Partners," she went on. "After he died, I took it private. We run lean now. Fewer stores, more impact. And the foundation gives out about $110 million a year." Then she dropped the line that caught at my ribs. "I don't need an heir," she said. "I need a conscience with a spine." She offered me a room in the East Wing, a salary, modest but dignified, her words. A 4-year apprenticeship to learn the whole machine. Grant making, real estate, political leverage, audits, what works and what rots. If I earned it, I'd get a say in where the river flows. I asked her straight, why me? She didn't blink. Because I know what it feels like to be shut out by your own blood. It leaves a mark. She stepped closer. And because you gave the last warm thing you had. No audience, no angle. That's the tell I trust. I swallowed. My throat hurt. I don't want to be a project, I said. She smiled just a little. Good. I don't take on projects. I recruit partners. She offered her hand. Not delicate, firm, real. I shook it. Rosa didn't waste time. Next morning, 6 a.m. Sharp. She knocked once on my door and handed me a leather binder so thick it bent at the spine. Inside, daily schedules, org charts, passwords, audit calendars, committee rosters, and a list titled, Ways Honest People Get Steamrolled. I flipped to page 1 and read the first bullet. Don't confuse being liked with being safe. Then she told me to change and meet her outside in 5. The lake was small but hilly. Leading the run was a retired Marine named Delaney, who didn't care that I was 57 and hadn't exercised since the Obama administration. Don't talk, just move, he barked. When I winced halfway through lap 2, he added, your knees aren't your boss anymore. At 7:15, breakfast was in the study. Steel-cut oats, black coffee, and Evelyn running down governance policies like she was teaching hand-to-hand combat. Fiduciary duty is not a feeling, she said. It's a line you can defend in court. By 8 o'clock, I was in a jacket with a name tag, sitting beside her at the foundation's office on Sand Hill Road. The building looked like a modern church, wood, glass, stone, and every room inside buzzed like a wasp nest. From 9 to 6, I shadowed her through meetings with grantees, staff, auditors, consultants, and donors who threw around words like impact multipliers and outcome efficiency like they meant something. I stayed late, cleaning up spreadsheets they never finished, fixing decimal errors in reports that were headed to Washington. She never said good job, but she didn't correct me either. That felt like a win. Nights were brutal. I'd change in the parking lot and drive straight to Stanford. Executive program for nonprofit leaders, 3 nights a week, 14 weeks. The room was full of 20-somethings from Bain, McKinsey, Gates Foundation. They spoke in frameworks. I spoke in examples. Took me 3 classes to stop nodding like I understood everything. By the 4th week, I learned to raise my hand and say, show me the proof. Weekends were site visits. Richmond, a women's shelter where the director kept Narcan in her coat and still made jokes about the plumbing. Stockton, a re-entry program where a guy with tattoos on his knuckles taught resume writing with a broken projector and one working outlet. Gilroy, a clinic with flickering lights, 3 nurses, and a grant budget held together with duct tape. They kept the place open by cutting their own pay. I didn't talk. I watched. One Sunday, I asked Evelyn why we gave so much to places barely keeping the lights on. She sipped her tea and said, we don't hand out fish or fishing lessons. We buy the water rights and fix the damn dam. I wrote it down. 2 days later, I sat through a pitch from a biotech founder with a social impact arm and a yacht the size of my motel. He wanted $5 million for equity-positive access models. Evelyn raised one eyebrow and said, we already do that. It's called medicine. He left empty-handed. I stayed late to rework his numbers anyway, just in case she changed her mind. She didn't. By the end of month 2, I had 2 suits, a desk on the 3rd floor, and a seat in every meeting that mattered. Evelyn still didn't praise me, but she didn't have to. I knew when I was being tested, and I knew I hadn't passed anything yet. Month 3, I was finally breathing at my desk when Rosa knocked twice and said, you're up, big boardroom. Frosted glass, long table, chairs that creaked money. 8 members in person, 2 on screen. Evelyn sat at the far end, silent, not even a pen in her hand. The item was halfway down the agenda. Line 3B, review and recommend status of mobile access outreach. I already knew what was coming. Board member named William Harrow, early investor in 3 biotech unicorns, leaned in like he'd been waiting all morning. I move we defund the program, he said. If it can't be measured, it's waste. No data, no dollars. That line hung in the air like bad breath. I'd spent the past 4 nights riding that van, Cold vinyl seats, granola bars in the glove box, 2 caseworkers rotating 10-hour shifts. I saw one of them talk a Vietnam vet out of a screaming match with a parked car, walked him into a motel room at 2 a.m., paid cash at the front desk so the guy wouldn't have to leave a deposit. I watched a nurse stop a skin infection from turning into sepsis right there in the van. She carried antibiotics in a labeled makeup bag. No chart, no overhead. Just care. I flipped open the folder in front of me and stood. Here's what we tracked, I said. 32 ER diversions in 6 weeks. That's direct hospital cost savings. I clicked to the next slide. 14 avoided arrests, documented. Local PD knows the van, uses it. That's community relief. Next slide. We booked 108 motel nights across 9 locations, all under market, keeping rooms in rotation and people off the street. Someone started to interrupt. I raised my voice. I'm not done. I showed burnout rates among the staff and what happened when we funded relief shifts. Higher retention, more coverage, 0 handoffs during crisis hours. Then I laid down the wild card, a series of photos, all with release forms. Faces of the people we served, not stock shots, real people, real names. This is not unmeasured, I said. Our dollars are already buying outcomes. You just didn't count them because they don't fit on a spreadsheet. Harrow leaned back in his chair. You're being emotional. I didn't blink. No, I'm being practical. Emotional is what we get when we cut this, and the cops pick up the slack. Emotional is what the ICU charges when we don't catch infections early. This isn't theory. It's math. Silence. Evelyn hadn't moved. Not one word. The vote came, 6-2. Motion failed. The board approved a limited expansion with 6-month reporting guardrails. Meeting adjourned. I sat there, half-wired, waiting for the pat on the head. It didn't come. Evelyn slid a yellow legal pad across the table, covered in red ink. Arrows, notes, crossed-out phrases, margin scribbles. She tapped the top. Now, write the policy so it survives the next storm. Then she walked out. I stayed late. Didn't even look at the clock until my fingers started locking up. When I checked, it was 1:40 a.m. I had 3 pages written, dense, full of jargon I thought sounded sharp. Next morning, I handed it to Rosa. She sat down, read it once, then grabbed a pen and crossed out a third without pausing. Stop trying to sound smart, she said. Plain words keep programs alive. I took the draft back and rewrote the entire thing. 3 times. That final version, it passed. And 2 months later, it kept the van running when the next budget squeeze came down. The sun cut through the stained glass in ribbons of red and blue as I stepped into the library. Evelyn was already at the table, a single folder in front of her, thick cream stock, no branding. She didn't sit. She slid it across the table like it weighed nothing. Take your time, she said, but her tone made it clear I wouldn't need much. I opened it. Title, President and CEO, Carrington Foundation. Reporting to the board. Chair, Evelyn Carrington. Base, salary, $210,000. Participation in the board, 10.5% tied to endowment growth. Endowment, just under $3.6 billion. Terms, full authority over programs starting year 2, subject to board oversight. 9-month overlap with Evelyn breathing down my neck. The contract was clean, precise. Not a vanity deal, real expectations, real teeth. She stood across from me, arms crossed, waiting. I wasn't moved by a coat, she said. Let's get that straight. I looked up. I didn't think you were. You sat in ugly rooms, she continued. Rooms where people had no leverage, and you still asked the right questions. I didn't say anything. You have a mechanic's hands, she added. You don't perform. You fix what's in front of you. She tapped the folder once. So fix this. Make the whole thing mean something, I signed. No ceremony, no lawyer on standby, just ink and air. She picked up the contract, folded it once, and nodded toward the terrace. We sat outside while the house staff laid out 2 glasses and a bottle I'd never afford. 1984 Bordeaux, she said. My husband saved it for promotions. The bottle opened with a small hiss. She poured, then lifted her glass. To someone who had every excuse to get small, she said, and didn't. I clinked her glass, didn't try to be clever. Thank you, I said. The wine tasted like something too good for words. We didn't talk after that. Just sat in the late light, watching the sun fall through the trees. October rolled in thick gray and wet. The fog wrapped downtown like it owned it. I was at my desk on the 23rd floor of 333 California, glass walls, rain streaking sideways. Rosa knocked once and cracked the door. "Your brother," she said, "and a woman named Lena Park are in the lobby." I didn't answer right away. "They said it's urgent," she added. "I told them you were in a meeting. They didn't move." I nodded once. "Send them up." They walked in looking like they'd rehearsed in front of a mirror. Brent wore a navy suit that fit him like he borrowed it. Lena had on a charcoal gray dress with a high collar and a portfolio she didn't open once. Same designer smiles. Same scent of desperation under cologne. Brent got to it quick. "We were wrong," he said. "About you. About everything. We're trying to do better," Lena added. "But Dad's in a rough spot. The house, the loan, he's upside down." Brent leaned forward. "And we've got something in the pipeline. A seniors at home startup, telecare, medication delivery, lifestyle concierge. We just need 1.8 to close the round. It's life or death." I kept my hands on the desk. "What happened to the trust?" Brent glanced at Lena, then back to me. "We diversified." I didn't blink. "Crypto, NFTs, couple angel deals. One of my guys started a fintech play out of Miami. We got in early. A condo deposit," Lena said, quieter. Brent shrugged. "Market flipped. Happens to everyone." Rosa had placed a folder on my desk an hour earlier. I turned it around so they could see the cover. Inside, 10 months of bank statements, a blogger's deep dive on the trust's collapse, photos of Brent's matte gray Porsche with the custom plate, a receipt from the Ibiza trip, a screenshot of Lena's story, captioned "Champagne for Winners." 83% gone, I said. 10 months. That's not a storm. That's a bonfire. Lena's mouth opened, then closed. Brent tried the old grin. "Okay, we made mistakes. But this startup, it's different. We've got a pipeline into 3 states. "No, you don't." I slid another sheet forward. "I talked to 2 of the agencies listed. One hadn't heard of you. The other thought you were a spam call." His face tightened. "So you brought us up here to humiliate us?" "I brought you up to say no in a quiet room. Now the quiet part's done." He stood hard. Chair legs scraped the tile. Lena blinked fast, digging in her bag like she'd misplaced her dignity. Security was already in the hallway. Rosa didn't need to call. They knew when to be ready. When the tone flipped, they moved. Calm, professional. Out in the fog, someone filmed it. Lena paused on the sidewalk and tried to cry into a camera lens. The clip hit within an hour. Then the real flood started. Old classmates posting clips, screenshots, receipts. Brent dumping a smoothie on my shirt senior year. A live video from last Christmas. Him laughing while I walked out with my duffel bag. By nightfall, their startup deck leaked. Vaporware. Buzzwords stapled to nothing. The only doors that opened for them after that were the ones leading out. The headline dropped on a gray Tuesday like it was waiting for bad weather. Sierra Ridge Partners collapses. $3.1 billion missing. Federal probe underway. I didn't need to read the article. I already knew. 6 months earlier, Dad had gone all in. Pulled equity from the house, maxed the HELOC, even pawned off Mom's jewelry, the real stuff, not costume, all chasing an 18% guaranteed return, pitched by a guy he met at a silent auction in Menlo Park. The math was fantasy. He believed it anyway. 34 days later, the foreclosure notice hit the front gate in Woodside. No bidders. Bank took title. They landed in a 2-bedroom walk-up above a strip mall off Tully Road in San Jose. Rent $24.50. Thin walls, no elevator, parking lot that stank of grease and spilled soda. The kind of place where even the mailboxes looked tired. Calls from collectors came daily. Dad kept his phone off. Mom just cried. Then one morning, Rosa buzzed my office. "You've got 3 walk-ins, no appointment. It's your family." I knew before I looked. They were sitting in the lobby, Brent quiet for once. Mom in a cheap sweater with roots showing through box dye, face raw like she hadn't slept. Dad looked 20 pounds lighter, collarbone sharp through his shirt. He was holding a manila folder like it might break him. I brought them into a side room, 4 chairs, 1 table, glass walls. I closed the door behind me and sat. Nobody spoke first. I waited. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "We know we don't deserve it," he said. "We just need a start." That's all. Mom didn't look up. She shredded a tissue in her lap, fingers working like she was pulling a string out of her soul. Brent stared at the floor. It was just bad luck, he said. I reached into my drawer and pulled out the folder Rosa had helped me prep months ago. I slid 3 business cards across the table. This is what we give everyone, I said. No more, no less. They stared down at the cards like they were in another language. First card, Marissa Wu, CFP, specializes in post-bankruptcy planning. Second, an 8-week financial recovery class at the Eastside Community Center, fully funded by our foundation. Third, a therapist named Raj Venkata, sliding scale, zero judgment, fluent in shame and debt. Dad leaned back, blinked hard. That's all you've got for your own father? I didn't flinch. Choices have gravity. You made yours. I'm making mine. Mom's lip trembled. I'm sorry, Calvin. I nodded. I believe you, but sorry doesn't rebuild a life. Work does. Brent's mouth twisted. You're enjoying this. No, I said. I'm just done paying for your fires. They didn't argue after that. I stood, opened the door. Security didn't need instructions. They moved slow, respectful, no scene. As they reached the lobby, Mom looked back once, eyes red. I gave her a nod. She didn't smile, just kept walking. Dad didn't turn around at all. The sky over East Palo Alto was the color of steel, flat, cold, solid. Harbor House stood 4 stories tall, wrapped around a courtyard already alive with sound. A dozen kids chased each other between planter boxes overflowing with mint and kale, arms flailing, laughter bouncing off stucco and glass. 180 permanent supportive units, an on-site clinic, job center, early learning hub, rooftop solar to cut the bills, and one line in the bylaws I fought tooth and nail to keep. No one turned away for lack of paperwork. No exceptions, ever. The plaza filled fast. Families dragging suitcases, city officials in long coats, donors checking their watches, 3 stations serving the worst coffee money could buy, cameras on every corner, drones buzzing like flies. Rosa found me near the registration tent, squeezed my hand once without a word. Evelyn sat in the front row in winter white, hair pulled back, calm as stone. She didn't need to speak. This was the kind of place that said it all for you. They handed me a mic I didn't ask for. I walked up, looked out at a crowd of people finally standing on solid ground. Last December, I said, I got tossed out of the house I grew up in with 1 bag. I let that sit. I learned that night that family isn't the people who shut a door. It's the strangers who open one. That was it. I stepped back. No applause line, no fake emotion, just the truth. From the stage, I saw them, near the back, tucked beside a column. Dad in a coat that didn't fit, shoulders slouched like he was shrinking into it. Mom holding a paper cup, like it might disappear if she let go. Brent gray-faced, trying not to look anyone in the eye. I didn't call them out, didn't shift my tone. I let the room hear what it needed to hear and moved on. The governor cut the ribbon, band struck up. Kids with bouquets ran toward us like a flood. A girl threw petals in the air and shouted something I couldn't hear over the cheering. I stepped off the riser and into the crowd, 1 foot, then the next. Calm, solid. Just before I reached the doors, they appeared in my path. They didn't speak, neither did I. I didn't rush, I didn't flinch. I just kept walking, eyes forward, pace steady. Mom's mouth opened like she wanted to say something. I didn't give her the chance. The doors opened. Warm air hit my face like a welcome I didn't ask for, but earned anyway. I walked into Harbor House like I belonged there, because I did. Inside the doors, a little boy in a Spider-Man hoodie tugged my sleeve and looked up with wide eyes. "Did you build this place?" he asked. "I'm one of the folks who got it done," I told him. He handed me a dandelion, all stem and no fluff. I tucked it behind my ear. He grinned like I'd just pulled a coin from his ear. Reporters started shouting questions from the doorway. How many units, what's next, who funded what? I let Rosa handle it. She had her press voice on. I didn't need to be the show today. I took the long way through. The clinic came first. Nurses unpacking boxes, testing thermometers. One woman wheeling in a fridge marked, "Vaccines do not unplug." The community kitchen smelled like onions and cumin. Somebody had already fired up a pot of chili and left their tote bag on the bench like it was their own counter. It felt lived in already. The The elevator dinged and two teenagers rolled past with mattresses, laughing too loud. No idea they'd made it home. I stepped aside to let them pass. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. We'll take the class. Then another. Thank you for the cards. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. I didn't reply. Not yet. But something in my chest unclenched like a hand finally letting go. I walked out to the second-floor balcony, the one that looks over the courtyard. From there, I watched a dozen doors open and close as folks carried in lamps, air plants, teddy bears, one dog bed with a pink bone stitched into the edge. Harbor House wasn't pretty because of speeches. It was pretty because it worked. People will tell you closure looks like a movie. Slow motion, swelling music, big apology under perfect lighting. Mine looked like this. A working elevator, warm food, one kid smiling at a flower behind my ear. I didn't turn my back on anybody. I just stopped paying for their mistakes. Evelyn came up beside me, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. No cameras, she said, just us. I took the cup. That's perfect. She nudged me gently with her shoulder and nodded at the crowd below. River looks good from here, she said. I nodded. It did.